Good day, cherished classmates. I hope you are all doing well by the grace of God. Today we are going to look at how we can use the A-frame inspector to help us do our positioning and then our transformations properly in A-frame. A-frame is actually a web XML framework, and it doesn't give you the opportunity to actually manipulate your entities in a 3D like you would do in a 3D software, but it has another system that enables us to do that, which is the A-frame inspector. So today we are going to look at how we can use the A-frame inspector. So I'll go by the most common way and the quicker way to do it is to have the A-frame inspector file downloaded offline. I have the file here, that's the A-frame inspector.js file. So I'll make sure it's available in the WhatsApp group so that we can all have access to it. Okay. So in order to use the A-frame inspector offline, what you have to do is that we use this component. So I'll type everything from the beginning again. So after hosting your file in your A-frame folder or the A-frame directory, you type inspector equals, then you have to use the URL component to specify the location. So URL script /iframe inspector.js. So by doing so, and please, you have to make sure it's inside the A scene, the beginning tag for the A scene. So we specify the inspector equal to then URL colon then the directory to your iframe inspector file. Then after doing this, all you have to do is to save and then you load your file. So I have loaded my scene here. So this is my scene. So realize that with this scene, if I'm to actually reposition all these elements, for example, if I want the sphere to come first, followed by the cylinder, followed by this box, and then this box, for me to do it in A-frame means that I have to calculate every single position, every single value, and sometimes even do try and error. It's a very tedious and long process. So we are going to the A-frame inspector to help us to do that. Now to use the A-frame inspector in your browser, all you have to do is to use A-frame inspector. You have to type Control plus Alt plus I on your keyboard. So this is the shortcut you are going to use, Control plus Alt plus I on your keyboard in order to access the A-frame inspector. Now that we have it embedded into our scene, we can have access to it. So let's do that straight away. So Control Alt I, and then we have the inspector loaded. So now the inspector enables us to navigate our scene very easily. You left click and drag to orbit. In order to orbit in inspector mode, you left click and drag. And to pan means to move it left, right, up and down. To pan in inspector mode, you right click and drag. And also to zoom in and out, you use mouse wheel. So use the mouse wheel to zoom in and out. So let's try it on this. So if I left click and drag, it enables me to orbit around my scene really in all axes supported. Positive X, positive Y, negative X, negative Y, positive Z, and negative Z. It enables me to go. So that's left click and drag. Now if I want to move my scene left, right, up and down, I'll right click and then I move. So if I right click and move, realize that it enables me to left, right, up, down, and what have you. So that's how it works. So this is the panning, left, right, and up and down. Sorry, my mouse is not coordinating, but I hope you can bear with me. And in order to zoom in and out, just use the scroll wheel to also zoom in and out. So that is for the A-frame inspector. So now let's try and rearrange these objects. So if I click on the sphere, you realize that the sphere has been highlighted here. Now let me remind you, with the A-frame inspector, every single change you make will not be automatically written to your HTML file. You have to copy the codes manually and put it back. Now this is also a very tedious process, right? Because anytime if I make change, I have to come back and then write everything back, come back and write it back. As computer science students, we want to automate the stuff. That's the reason why we learn all these shortcuts, right? We want things to be easier and simpler for us. So there's another way to actually write everything automatically without having to copy the codes anytime you want to make changes. So first of all, let's look at how we can position this. So we have the movement gizmo. Gizmo is simply something that enables you to transform your entity. So we have the move gizmo, we have the rotate gizmo, and we have the scale gizmo. Each and every one of them enables you to manipulate your object freely. So let's start with the move gizmo. The move gizmo, we have the Z, X, and then the Y axis. So if I want to move this sphere to this side, I'll just have to click here and move it to this side. Then I need this box to be here. So this gives you the freedom of using a 3D software. Those who have used 3D softwares like Maya and Blender, you know what I'm talking about. So this gives you the freedom. So I've easily positioned within under 10-15 seconds. I've been able to manipulate these entities or primitives very easily. If I were to do this in the normal A-frame, it would have been very difficult. I have to calculate each and every position, which is very, very tedious. Now you realize that anytime I do any movement, the values keep on changing here. The values keep on changing here. You can actually do it manually. For example, if I want to rotate this cylinder 45 degrees about the z-axis, I can come and type it here, 45, and I press enter, and to be rotated 45 degrees from the positive x-axis. The same way I can use the gizmo to simply rotate this back. But I realize that it may not be too accurate, so if I want the specific value, I just come and type 0 here, press enter, and that is it. I have my what I want here. So now I can also scale. So I can scale it along the x, y axis. I can also scale it along the z axis, anywhere I prefer. So this gives me the freedom to do all that. I can also come and enter it manually, so I can scale it 2 times this axis, scale it 1.5 in the y axis, and scale it 2 times in the z axis. So this enables me to do my transformations so easily. Now you can also have different views in the inspector. So in the inspector, this is my perspective. Perspective enables you to view it in all axes, irrespective of which specific axis you are in. So I can have the left view. So this is the left view. I can have the right view. I can have the top view to view my objects. This is essential if you actually want to align all your objects to a specific line. So for example, this, I want to align all the objects from the top to this line. So I can do this to align all of them perfectly. So this is the top view. I can also have the bottom view from here, and I can have the back view to view all of them. And I realize that some of my entities are actually not in their perfect position, so I can just position this one properly and move this one up just slightly. Very good. I can also have the front view. So the inspector mode just gives you the freedom to do whatever you want to do. It's so free and fair, right? Yeah. And I can also move my plane. So realize that any element I click on is highlighted here, so I can move my plane up or down, And I can also scale my plane as well. So let's say I want to scale my plane. So it's currently 333. I can scale the plane here by moving it along this. So that is it. So I can even fill the entire space. I can make my plane fill the entire space without even having to do any calculation. Get it? In A-frame, you actually have to do a lot of calculations to do this. But in the inspector mode, you don't have to worry about all those calculations. It's so simple and easy. So having said that, we have this as our scene. Mm, and we'll be able to do all these things without having to do any real-time calculations. You just have to think and then it is done. Okay, so now someone will say, okay, so I'm done doing all these movements and transformations. How then do I make sure it appears in my work? Now I'll do something very quickly. I don't want this to disappear, so I'll just go on and save it directly, and then I'll do this very quickly. Now what happens is that with the AFM inspector, if you leave your browser for some time, just the slightest amount of time, and you come back, the inspector will not be there waiting for you. Yes, the inspector will disappear to go. So what happens is that anytime you make change to one entity, you have to copy the HTML. So let me load the inspector again. Anytime you make changes to the inspector, you have to copy the HTML, to copy the entity HTML, and you're going to replace it in your code. But that is very tiring. So let's look at, after making changes, how do we maintain those changes? Now, to maintain those changes, we have another system called the A-frame watcher. The A-frame watcher. Now, what is this A-frame watcher going to do? The A-frame watcher is just like a security personnel who is guarding a place. So the A-frame watcher, let's take the A-frame watcher as the CCTV camera. So it will be monitoring every single manipulation you will be doing inside the A-frame inspector. Then when you are done with everything and you want to save, the A-frame watcher will catch all the changes you have made, all the modifications you have made, and then ask you if you want to apply those changes to your code. Because in the A-frame watcher is responsible for catching all the modifications and applying them. So I will quickly take you through the who's the applying the A-frame watcher. Now for the A-frame watcher, you don't actually, we don't have a script or a file that you have to host offline. Most of them are online. So we will use this part. Let me copy this part here and paste it here. So this is the online framework. It's actually online for the A-frame. It's actually online because you need a live server to concurrently pull all the modifications you are doing. And then also, in order to get the real-time server, in order to get a real-time server, there are a couple of things you need to do. You need to first of all install Node.js. If you don't have Node.js, this is the first step. You have to install Node.js from online. And so install Node.js, you add it to path. It's actually embedded in the installation process. So after installing Node.js and adding to your path, you open the folder that contains your A-frame entities or your A-frame files. So for example, my folder is A-frame. So I come here, A-frame. This A-frame folder is embedded inside my amps directory, and I have opened it in VS Code. So if I come here, I have A-frame here. That's the folder I'm working on. And I have my scripts. I have so this is where my project is. That's the A-frame primitives. Okay, so After installing your Node.js, you verify if the Node.js has been installed successfully by using node-v to verify the installation. After verifying the installation, now we need to install the A-frame watcher. We need to install the A-frame watcher in order to apply it in our work. So we use the command npm install hyphen -g. Hyphen -g is a flag for grab or to get. So get what? We want to get the A-frame hyphen watcher. So after running this command, the A-frame watcher will be installed in your projects, the project folder. It will be installed in the project folder. So after installing this successfully, realize that you are on your way to victory. So all you need to do is that if you want to apply the A-frame watcher, you just type A-frame hyphen. I have installed mine already. So A-frame watcher, then you press enter. So this will run in the background. We have listening, so the system call is listen, so everything is being listened to. Okay, so what happens is that I was running it already, so let me close this one. Let me close it from here, and let me run the A-frame watcher again. So A-frame watcher, just as I was saying, if you want to run the watcher, you just can type A-frame watcher, then you press enter. Now A-frame watcher will tell you that it is watching for messages from inspector on this port. So on this port, the watcher is watching for messages from the inspector. So now it means that any changes we apply, we don't need to manually copy the HTML codes and then come and replace it in our file. It will automatically save everything for us. It will just ask us, do we want to really do this? And that's all. So now remember that I told you that we'll have to embed this code. So this code scripts the http on pack.com A-frame watcher. You have to copy this code and then come and put it in your head tag. It will actually fetch the resources from online, because I told you the A-frame watcher is actually an online resource, so it uses a live server to make sure everything you're doing. So now that the watcher is watching, let's try and make some changes and see if it actually works. So I'll go live from here. So run live server. So live server has started. So on my live server, yeah, so my scene has been loaded on my live server, and I want to make changes to this scene. I want to make sure this sphere is on top of this box, and also this cylinder is on top of this box. So let's quickly go into that. So to do that, I would have to enter the inspector mode. Now record that inspector mode, we use Control plus Alt plus I to enter the inspector mode. So Control Alt plus I to enter inspector mode. So now this is my inspector mode. So now inside my inspector mode, I can actually do a whole lot of stuff. I can move anyhow I want. I can zoom in and zoom out. I can pan up and down freely, and also view my objects from every angle. So now let's do some modifications and let's see if the watcher can actually save it automatically for us. Okay, so now I want to take this sphere and put it on top of this. First of all, let me try and view it from the front so that I don't have any errors. So I do this, I can zoom in and make sure my object is positioned right on top of this. Yes, so I have this. Very good. And I also want to make sure this cylinder is positioned on top of this box. So I'll move it here a little, bring this guy here, and then take this up and then bring this on top here. So this is my cylinder sitting right on top of. So now let's take another view. Let's take the perspective view and let's see what has happened. So I've managed to place my sphere on top of my box and my cylinder on top of this box. Now if I come to the left view, I can also make changes here by making sure that, yes, so I can align it here. I can go to the back view and also make sure everything's aligned. If I come to the right view, I can also make sure that this is perfectly aligned here by taking this back a little, just a little. Yes, so now I have manipulated my scene. So if I want to have a freedom of moving in all planes or axes, I just have to come to the perspective view in order to have the view. Now let me add one thing. In order for the watcher to save your changes, you must give each and every entity inside your code an ID. Without an ID, the watcher cannot do anything to help you. Without an ID, the watcher doesn't know what it is writing to. So realize that if I come to my scene in the inspector, each and every element here has an ID. So the ID of this is ball, the ID of this element is box 1, the ID of this is box 2, and the ID of this is cylinder. So please make sure that inside your code you have IDs for each and every single entity you have created must have an ID. So if, for example, in your scene you are creating a summer hat and then you are creating a roof, you probably use a cone for the roof of your summer hat. So make sure that cone has an ID of, let's say, roof. Or if you have multiple cones, roof 1, roof 2, roof 3. Yeah, so by so doing, the watcher can now help you by writing everything to your code. So now I've made these changes, but if I don't save them, it will not reflect in my final code. So what I'll do is that I will come here, write changes with A-frame watcher. I'll click this one, then I'll come back to my code. Now these are the changes I made. A-frame inspector from localhost has requested the following changes. First change, ball. The position of the ball has changed. And then we have cylinder. I've changed the position of the cylinder. I've changed the position of box 2. So these are the changes I've made. Now, watcher will ask me, do you allow A-frame inspector watcher to write this update directly within this directory? So I have options, yes or no. Probably it's just going to be yes because that's what I want. So by clicking yes, I have updated position of ball, updated position of cylinder, updated position of box 2, sync complete. So now everything is completed. So if I should come back here, you see that our inspector has gone, right? I will just leave the inspector for a few seconds and then it's gone. Yeah, so that's what the inspector does. It will not wait for you. It will go away. So if you don't save the changes using the watcher, everything will go away. But then, if the inspector has not been configured to write everything to the watcher, everything we did previously would have been waste. But because we have written everything directly into our code, we don't need to copy everything manually. So let me quickly do a recap so that we can all be on the same page. So let me delete this terminal. So first of all, we started by saying that the A-frame inspector is a system that enables us to freely manipulate our objects in real-time 3D because the A-frame itself doesn't allow you to do that automatically. So in order to position our element, in order to move about so freely, we really need the inspector. You can even zoom in into detail and then do your positioning, your translations, your rotations, and your scalings properly. And it also enables us to orbit in inspector. It also enables us to orbit freely in all the 3 axes. So in order to orbit, we use left click and drag. To pan, we use right click and drag. And to zoom in and out, we use the mouse wheel. That's the third mouse button. Now, you can be in the inspector mode, alright. So let's jump into inspector mode from here. Control Alt plus I. So we are in inspector mode. But then, you also have to note that every single change you make in inspector mode, if you don't save the changes, yes, so it's a cost 90 job. So you have to actually save your changes before you realize the full benefit of whatever you have done. And in order to save the changes, we use the A-frame watcher. Now, how do we get the A-frame watcher? The A-frame watcher is installed using the npm command. We use the npm command to install the A-frame watcher. And in order to have the full benefit of the npm, we first have to install node.js. So just go to your browser, type download node.js, and then you download it and then install it, add it to path. We are computer science students, so by now you should know how to do all this. After doing that, you can check the version of your node if it has been installed properly using node-v to do the installation, to check the version. Sorry. Now after doing that, you use the npm install -g. -g is a flag, stands for grab or get. Then you have the A-frame watcher. Then this will automatically download every single package you need for the A-frame watcher. And then now if you want to run the if, so let me quit my server and let me close mine here. So if you want to run the A-frame watcher, in order to watch everything that is going on, you open a terminal. So you can open a terminal from here. You open a new terminal, and within that terminal, so the terminal, you can come here, run in debug, and then you move this. You can click here to open a terminal, or you can open a new terminal here. There are so many terminals. You have the PowerShell, command prompt, Ubuntu terminal, JavaScript terminal. So I mostly use the command prompt terminal. So within the command prompt terminal, because you have already installed the A-frame watcher, just type A-frame-watcher. Then you press enter. So A-frame watcher will be watching for messages from the inspector. Then if you want to go live and then make changes to your elements respectively, go live, and then it will open here. After it opens, you have to press Ctrl Alt plus I to open the inspector. And then after opening the inspector, you are free to make any changes, any desired changes you want, And just as I've said, you can add new entities, but it is not recommended because it's kind of a very tricky process. Because if you add the new elements and you don't forget to write the changes back, you'll be doing a cost-90 job. So here you can add so many elements, you can add so many components from here. We mostly have it from the geometry tab. So if I go to geometry, you can add a new entity. For example, if I want to add a dodecahedron, so I can do that here. So that's a dodecahedron. So you can actually add new element, but it is not recommended. You have to do everything using the codes. So for the A-frame inspector, it's only there to help you to get your positioning right, not with adding a new entity. So that is all for A-frame inspector and A-frame watcher. Please, I will make sure I send the files to the group, or better still, it will be available on the VLE for you to download and use for the A-frame inspector. And for the A-frame watcher, you use the npm command to install it. Thank you for the time. Have a nice day.